Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Sean Veer-Mahil and I am a co-founder of virtualemployee.com. Today I've come to Purdue Technology Center in Indianapolis to meet with Ray Peck, the CEO of VxP Pharma, a pharmaceuticals and biotechnology company. In today's case study, you're going to learn three things. Firstly, the difference between outsourcing and hiring a virtual employee. Secondly, how virtualemployee.com is a plug-and-play business solution. And thirdly, why many companies do offshore their back office work. So let's go inside now and meet with Ray Peck. Hello Ray, thank you for inviting me down here to the offices of VxP Pharma in Indianapolis. I'd like to say a big thank you from Virtual Employee side.
Oh, I'm glad to help.
Thank you very much. So to begin with, could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your company?
Yeah, I'm Ray Peck. I'm the CEO of VxP Pharma. What we are is we provide contract research to pharmaceutical and biotech companies around the United States and basically around the world as well.
Okay. What services have you taken from Virtual Employee and for how long?
Well, we've worked with Virtual Employee about a year and a half, and what we did was about a year and a half ago, we decided we needed to update our database of clients. We had about 24,000 contacts in our database, and what we found was a huge percentage of these people had moved on or had gone, the companies had gone out of business, they just were not accurate anymore. Mm-hmm. So we tried to hire some people in the United States to update this, to help us update our database, and the problem we had was we'd find someone, they'd say they were interested and they'd like to do this, and they work for us for a week or a day in one case, or a few weeks, and then they'd leave. And we lost a lot of time training these people, we lost a lot of money paying them, and in the long run, nothing was getting done. So that's when we contacted Virtual Employee.
So what you're saying is prior to working with us, you were actually finding it difficult to get this work done here locally?
Yes, yes. What we found was this type of work, updating the database, it was very methodical, it was very mechanical, maybe drudgery in some cases. Some people just didn't want to do this this type of work. Mm-hmm. And they think they would want to do it, but then after a week of doing it, or even, like I mentioned, a day of doing it, they would quit. And we would have to start from scratch and our project would stall.
So when you were thinking of going offshore, why did you choose Virtual Employee over other vendors that you had spoken with in India?
Well, we did talk to several vendors. Most of the companies we talked to were primarily interested in, their instructions were give us a project, send it over to us, and we'll give it back to you completed. Mm-hmm. And we would tell them that it isn't really a project per se, even though it was updating our database. This was going to be an ongoing thing. This is going to be something where we would have new leads, new contacts coming in. This employee would have to evaluate them, decide whether to add them to the database. They would have to do some research. They'd have to use websites like LinkedIn and just the internet in general to find out if these people were valid contacts. And basically we'd have to have someone who was thinking and not just going through a process. And that's what we were looking for primarily. When we went to these other companies, they could not provide us that service. And we were kind of shocked to find out not just that they were saying that that's not what we do best, but they would try just the same. They were turning us down. They were saying, no, we won't do this, sorry, good luck in your search. So that kind of surprised us, and we thought maybe we wouldn't be able to get it done. But we did run into Virtual Employee at that point. We heard about you guys and talked and said, this is what we're looking for. We're more looking for literally a virtual employee, not just someone to do a task. So,
how did you find the process from making your initial inquiry to actually working with your virtual employee?
Well, we contacted you, we told you what you're looking for, and we were kind of expecting to get the same thing as everyone else. We can do very mechanical, move something from column A to column B, for months on end, we can do that. But we were expecting to be turned down, but Virtual Employee said, no, we can help you there. And your approach was more, we will provide you with a full-time employee that kind of integrates with your staff more than they just handle a project in India. So that's what was of interest to us, and I said, okay, well, how does the process work? Do you assign us someone? They said, no, you interview employees. So we were pleased with that. we said, okay, great. So you set up interviews. We interviewed probably half a dozen different employees. Some of them we weren't interested in at all. Some were pretty good, and one rose to the top. Naladri was one of the guys we worked with, and he ended up being our employee, and we liked him, so we hired him on. And again, once he was on with us. He had a company email address. I mean, he was on our conference calls. He would be copied on company emails to clients and things like that. So he was really a full-time employee.
What have been the main differences for you between hiring locally and hiring a virtual employee?
Well, as a CEO, I hire, and I hate to say fire people all the time, but you have to bring people in and get people out, cycle them through the company, and there's reams of paperwork. There's regulations. There's difficulties of finding the right employee, of paying for them, of paying the taxes, of paying the unemployment insurance, of paying every possible type of difficulty. You have issues of, oh my gosh, all the rules and regs you have to follow. But I think what we liked about virtual employee is it really was like paying the phone bill. Instead of having to deal with all these regulations, we sent out a check every month, and that was it. We didn't have to worry about, unemployment insurance. We didn't have to worry about, if we have to get rid of them, do we have to pay their, some sort of unemployment cost for years on end, or get sued or something like this. It was just a bill, and that was easy for us. And we paid in U.S. dollars. So that was a good thing too. We were kind of concerned about that. Were we going to have to send some sort of foreign currency overseas? And we didn't. Our bills came in U.S. dollars, and we paid them in U.S. dollars. And eventually, our tasks were done. Shall we say? We were finished. We got the database updated. We got some of the other projects done, and we told virtual employee at that point we're pretty much finished at this. With Naladri, not in a bad sense, like hey, your employee where you bring them in the office and say, I'm sorry, bad news, you're fired. It was more like we're done with your services, and once we need you again, we'll call you. And we ended on very good terms. And again, we wouldn't hesitate to call them again. But the nice thing was, with these people we hired in the United States, we were worried that once the project got finished, you have all the, I don't want to say idiosyncrasies, but the idiosyncrasies of firing someone. And this wasn't the case. This was just like canceling a service. And again, it's just more putting it on hold than anything else, because we will eventually need your services again, but for now we don't. So we could kind of hit the pause button.
Was there anything in particular that you liked about virtual employees' service or found advantageous?
It was a tiny fraction of the cost of hiring someone, in the United States. And again, by tiny fraction, I mean it was. I bet you, it probably would have cost us, maybe 7 or 8 times more than we paid, to get someone in the U.S. And I know that because, again, I hire people all the time. I know what we pay them.
Okay.
I would say cost drove us there, but at the same time, we didn't expect this to be the case, but at least half of it was keeping someone working on the project so the project eventually got done. I mean, this project took probably 8 or 9 months to get finished. I mean, it was a long, long project. The other situation is, when you expand your headcount at a company, you have to hope that you're going to have enough work for all those people to do all the time. That was a concern we had. Are we going to hire on 2 or 3 new people, and we need them now, but 6 months from now we don't need them, and we have to decide, do we get rid of them? Do we try to find more work? Do we pay them and not, in the hopes we'll have more work coming? But with virtual employee, it gave us a lot of flexibility. We could, we could hit the pause button when we didn't have work. So that was a good thing for us. And the communication issues weren't a problem. I mean, again, we were pleased. In general, it was, you guys took care of the framework of having an employee. We took care of the work. We basically, you guys had the vessel. We poured the work in, and that was really what we needed to do. Because in the U.S., when we hire someone, we have to manage them. We have to deal with all the HR issues, even the computer and things like that. You guys provide the computer, and at one point we wanted to give Naladri a second monitor, so we could work on dual screens. And that was just a matter of a phone call. You guys got the extra screen, set him up, and the next day he was on board. So that was, and I do mean literally the next day. So it was a good experience.
How did you work with your virtual employee? What tools did you use? How did you send files? Could you just expand a little bit on that, please?
Well, when he first started, we used virtual employees' email address. And that was fine, but we realized, he's really a member of the team. We're contracting him as a member of the team. And our clients are seeing his name on emails and things, him being copied. So we thought it would just be easier to give him an internal email address. So again, he had the same email suffix as mine does, at VxPPharma.com. So we communicated with him that way. We'd send files back and forth, and that was simple. He just he was in our system on getting emails just like the rest of us. He had Outlook. He had all the general tools. We use Salesforce. He has a Salesforce account. Was able to make notes in there. So he was working just like any other employee we have. Only he was, I'm happy to say, a fraction of the cost, because that's, let's be honest, that's why a lot of us go to India.
Could you tell us a little about the results then of working with Nilandri? How did you find the caliber of his work? How did you find communicating with him and interacting with him despite him being halfway around the world?
It was great because we would see the constant progress. We would see as we went through the database, there were notations in the database when Nilandri had finished updating, and it wasn't just a check mark there, that he had gone over. He was saying this person used to be at Pfizer and now he's at Eli Lilly, and his former title was Director of Research and now he's Vice President of Research. So he would put the little notes in there, and sometimes what was kind of nice is he would call us and say, okay, here's a contact I found that his title isn't consistent with research. We find someone he's a director, but we find out he's director of IT, and IT isn't what we do, so let's get rid of him. So that was kind of nice. He would think on his feet.
Okay, so you worked with your VE for over a year. Did you achieve the objectives that you had in mind for the database you had? Were the results what you wanted in the end?
Oh yeah, they were. They really were. We had to twist and turn once in a while to change direction, but again, that was a benefit of having Nilandri be more of an employee than giving him a specific task. As it was getting done, we said, okay, let's try this and let's try that, and he changed as necessary. So again, we got the project done, but once we were done, we found we had other things to do, so we gave him other tasks.
So what impact has this had on your business of actually being able to get this database filtered out and complete? What's been the net result of that?
Oh, it's been huge, because like I said, now we've got 15,000 good contacts, and it's not to say that today some of those people haven't left or changed companies or whatever the case is. But when we have accurate contact information, we've been able to reach out to the research scientists that we need to communicate with to do business. If we would have sent out an email to all 24,000 contacts, I bet you 40 to 45% would have bounced back. And now we've got 13,000 or 15,000. With 15,000, if we send those out, I bet you probably 90% would go through to the correct person. And I say 90 because, again, some people left today. But that's been very helpful to us, because again, if we can't advertise our services to the people who use it, we're not going to get any business.
Okay, so another concern a lot of potential clients have about venturing into India is communication. Did you face any barriers interacting or communicating with your VE?
No, we really wouldn't. And that was again, you brought up a good point. That is a concern of ours. I'd say is, for with anyone we hire, because we're in a scientific field, there's a lot of accents involved. The language is English, but it's, we have all across the world we have scientists coming to America and being part of this business. But that was a concern we had working with Nilandri. Is he going to be easy to communicate with? But he spoke very good English. He spoke with a very slight accent at most, and he was easy to communicate with. We communicated through email, telecons. He would call into teleconferences, and also Skype. So it was simple. That wasn't. In fact, we have more trouble sometimes communicating with our clients than we did Nilandri.
Okay. Would you recommend virtualemployee.com to our viewers?
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely. Definitely. I would say what we liked about it is Virtual Employee was, again, it was hiring a full-time employee. It was hiring someone not just for a task, but to basically work alongside our employees. I mean, our employees thought of him as part of the team too, and when we came up with the project, it was always an option to give it to Nilandri. So that was something we didn't really expect. I mean, we have a company that does our IT. They work with our computers and our databases and whatnot. they're not a part of the team. They're a vendor. They come in, they fix the computers, and they leave. We can't ask them, hey, what do you think about this research project? They think we'd lost our minds. But with again, with virtual employee, with working with the lottery, he was again part of the team, and he understood what we were doing, and we could always hand off a project to him. So that was it was a good experience. We would definitely use virtual employee again.
Is there anything else you would like to share or add for the benefit of our viewers?
We had several concerns working with India, and I'll kind of take a step back here and say, when we first considered India, we were worried because we didn't want to be taken advantage of. We didn't want to send our money offshore and have it disappear. And to be honest, when we first went to our bank representative to wire money to India, we had to fill out quite a bit of paperwork that assured them that we weren't part of some scam. And we said, no, this is legitimate. So they warned us up and down and sideways to tell us, be careful. But we wired our money off. And again, that was another advantage of working with virtual employees. We paid your bill like the phone bill. It was just, we send off the money. But again, we were concerned dealing with India. And the second one, as you mentioned, was dealing with someone who was halfway around the world. How are we going to manage someone that's 10 and a half hours time zone difference? What we found was Naladri worked more toward our schedule. He started later in the day and worked later in the evening. That helped us because we had full access to him up until probably about lunchtime. And that was really all we needed. So again, that wasn't that difficult of a process to deal with. So that concern was unfounded, as it turns out. I think when you're looking at what your company does and deciding how to get it done, that's obviously the job of a CEO. Many of us consider offshoring. And again, it's a traumatic thing to consider because suddenly you lose somewhat control of the process. You've got someone working away remotely, you might never ever see them. And that was the case with Naladri. I've never met him face to face. We've spoken on the phone, through Skype, through emails and whatnot. But sometimes you feel like if you never meet these employees, you've lost touch with them, and or never had it to begin with. That was a concern we had, and that concern turned out to be unfounded. It worked out very well.
Great. Well, Ray, it gives me great satisfaction to know that your experience with us was a successful one, and I look forward to working with you again in the future. Thank you very much.
Hey, great. Glad to have you in. Thank you very much.
In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, there are 3 key points to take from today's case study. The first is that outsourcing is at a complete tangent to hiring a virtual employee. As Ray mentioned in his case study, the Indian outsourcing firms did not even want to take on board his work. And the reason for that is because outsourcing is whereby an external company completes a one-off, clearly defined piece of work on your behalf. And so the model simply does not have the flexibility to handle ongoing daily work. A virtual employee, however, is simply an in-house resource based offshore, and so any work can be handled by a VE. The second key point is that virtualemployee.com is a plug-and-play business solution. You make one payment and you have an office and staff in India. But you don't have to worry about your HR, tax, legal, accounts, or insurance liabilities. And lastly, a lot of times it can be difficult to get back office work done here locally in the States, but a country like India can really help you there. So do keep that in mind. I would like to wish you the best of luck in your offshoring endeavors, and thank you very much for watching.